wasn't the case.
Right. And in the grand scheme of things, I mean, so my questions are, why weren't you watching the kid?
Right, because, and here's my thing, why would you bring any child, no matter how old they are, to go shoot your gun?
Well, and then I know that one of our sources said that they would bring their children, but they'd leave them in the car with the car running and stuff like that, and they'd periodically go check on them.
Yeah, and they were also within, you could see them. You could make eye contact with them. They were that close. With a 3-year-old, he had no idea where this child was, and he's by a river. Why would you do that?
Well, that's the thing, too, because I know that when my kid was 3, she had a leash because she was a runner.
Yeah.
And I couldn't keep up with her. So, you know what I mean? Like, and then to be around, I know that she grew up in this area kind of thing, but at 3, you can't make the child responsible for their well-being when you're near a gravel pit or a river.
And, the thing is that there might be people of interest in this case, but it might go in a completely opposite direction. I mean, to be as sensitive as possible to the family members involved in this, it may have been that she wandered off and, it's a very wooded area. It's very, very natural out there. I mean, she could have met up with...
What was it, cougars we saw?
Cougars or a bear or something like that. And
the thing that keeps coming back in my mind is that some of her clothing, so like her gloves and her socks, were found across the road.
Yeah, which makes it... I guess I'm just trying to give the benefit of the doubt because I was unable to speak to Hahawks in Kimberly. And I really would have loved to have talked to them so we could have gotten their side of the story.
Right.
So all this is basically speculation at this point. But the one thing that is true is that this poor little 3-year-old is missing, and this family wants closure.
And, I mean, the biggest part, too, so, yes, there were 2 arrests of Hahawks and Kimberly. They were charged with things such as child endangerment and things like that because they did leave the scene, and the failure to call the police right away when they waited X amount of time, that was problematic because,
time is of the essence in situations like this.
Exactly. So
they were actually charged with endangerment, child neglect, and accountability.
Right, and I think the formal trial is September 25th, I believe. I know the newspaper had said that in June, they were brought up, they had posted bail and things like that. But like we said in the beginning, this is still an ongoing investigation, but there are 2 people that have been arrested. Unfortunately, we have no idea where Arden is, which is super upsetting because, it'd be nice to at least have some idea as to the situation that went on. She wasn't with her sisters, she was with her aunt's boyfriend, and now she's missing. So, there's still a lot of unanswered questions.
The other thing, Kelly, that got me is that they had to stop. They had to put the search on hold because of the weather and the terrain and everything. And I thought it was very odd that they would be concerned about the snowfall or the weather in April. But the thing is, in Montana, it's still snowing then. It's still, the weather is very unpredictable at that time of the year. So it's hard to do a thorough search and have to put it on hold because the weather will not cooperate.
Right. And I know that it was, I think, approximately 10 days into it that the recovery, according to the newspaper, had stopped. Which is kind of disconcerting because at that point, when you say recovery, they're not looking for baby Arden. They're looking for her body. But, I think that 10 days out, it's, they should have looked a little more and things like that. Another curious thing that we did find in another article was that the police had asked to have the vehicle that Arden was last seen in brought to the police station. When the vehicle was brought to the police station, it was found that the trunk had been bleached. So there wasn't any explanation. There wasn't any date that this was done.
Now, is this like gospel, or is this like an alleged?
No, this was in a newspaper article that said that the trunk had been bleached. And then I had seen questions up on the Baby Bring Arden Home homepage as to whether or not, were samples taken from this, because bleach doesn't totally get rid of blood. You need special chemicals to get rid of blood and things like that. So how much of a forensics investigations went into this bleached trunk? What questions I have are, why was the trunk bleached in the first place?
Yeah, that's odd.
And, it'd be interesting to hear why the trunk was bleached. Typically, I've owned cars now since I was 16, so about 20 years, and I've never bleached the inside of a car personally, or had the reason to bleach a car, but it just seems a little suspicious that, one would do that prior to dropping it off at a police station. And it seemed a little weird that it was just kind of like mentioned in an article, not so much that the police were really like concerned about it.
It's a lot of unanswered questions for sure.
So another interesting piece to this puzzle is that one of our sources that we were actually able to speak to had told us about a charge that one of the persons of interest had been charged with, what I think it was 3 days prior to this. It was in an outside area to the reservation, and the charges are still pending, but the conversation was pretty interesting, so we just wanted to share that with you.
Do you know the gentleman? I actually was corresponding with him on Facebook, and he was the gentleman that told me that Haha was he was going through charges for pulling a gun on him. Do you know this guy?
Yes. He, after he found out that, because, okay, so the local arrested Hawks and Kimberly, and for child neglect, or child endangerment, accountability, and child, there was something else, there's one more. But as soon as they went in, and they posted bond right then and there. And the reason why they let them post bond is because they're saying that there was no other charges against them.
Okay.
And then that's when that kid got in contact with Arden, and then that's when he posted that, saying that, hey, he has charges from when he chased me from this place to Missoula. So then he threatened me, or then he goes, then, he has, court in Missoula.
So if he gets arrested in Missoula, would it show up on the records on your reservation?
Yes, it will.
So then why did they say that he didn't have any charges?
Because those ones there it's considered pending.
Okay.
So my question is yes, they're being charged outside of the reservation, but let's focus on the charges at hand with the child endangerment and things like that. What kind of sentence do those actually carry, and what were they actually charged with?
So according to the information I got online, the child neglect and endangerment equals about 1,600 together. and the accountability charge is $1,000. And since they posted bail, they set a trial in September, but the max sentence for neglect endangerment charge is 9 months in jail and up to 15 days for the child neglect. Ugh. And the accountability charge carries a maximum of 1 year incarceration. So, not a lot.
No, it's not a lot. And on one hand, it's really not that fair. So the one person who's not even at the scene, has nothing to do with the child gone missing, could possibly get more time than the person who let the child go missing.
You know, and if you wanna like put in different theories of this, how do you even know that if allegedly a crime was committed and it wasn't something out of just pure neglect, how do you know what happened after he dropped his girlfriend off?
Right, because the only eyewitness to that is missing. And we don't... So the thing that really aggravates me in this is that there's a 3-year-old girl missing. How do you wait 4 or 5 hours before calling the police? How do you leave the scene to go pick somebody up? Yes, I get that they returned to the scene and things like that, but it's a 3-year-old little girl and you're right next to a river. How do you leave that scene? My first instinct would be, oh my God. I lost Az one time in Kohl's for literally 30 seconds. I almost shit my pants. My heart dropped to my asshole and I was just like devastated, and she was literally 2 aisles away from me. So the thought that I would look up and she wasn't anywhere, my
frightening.
First thing would be 911.
It's frightening. And then I'm looking at the times. So I wrote down that the sun set on April 22nd at 20:35 hours. It's 8:35 at night. So what he's saying is they both searched until between 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock at night. And by the time it was nightfall was at 21:51. So that's an hour and a half later. So they're saying that they searched in the pitch black of a night for a 3-year-old child.
No, I mean, I get that everybody acts differently in situations, but in my case, if I was truly innocent and my kid literally just slipped away from me or something like that, the first call I would make was to the police, because they have the resources and things like that to actually look for the child. Because I know that while the recovery was called off after about approximately 10 days, there are still recovery actions being taken. And I know that one of our resources had said that she'd give us a list of some things that they're looking for in order to help in the search for baby Arden.
We need searchers. You know, we need more resources out there. There is some women that been going out every day, and but you know they just walk. But it's so much. It's a wilderness place, but they go out every evening. But what we need is that the resources to go and do that, so they could search even further down the river.
So I know that Arden's grandma was talking about the need for resources and things like that. I do know that on their Facebook page, they're selling bracelets that say Bring Arden Home. So we will put that in our resources. If anybody would like to donate to help in the cause, there is also a GoFundMe page to help in bringing in cadaver dogs and things like that, which they have brought in and haven't found